Situation Room. Two of George Zimmerman's former neighbors gave some of the most dramatic and crucial testimony in his murder trial today. They told jurors what they saw and heard on that dark and rainy night in Florida when Trayvon Martin was shot and killed. One of them even took photos of Zimmerman's bloodied head and nose when he encountered him right after the shooting. Spoke the key question of whether Zimmerman acted in self-defense, but not necessarily in the way we might have expected from prosecution witnesses. CNN's Martin Savage has been covering the trial for us in Sanford, Florida. Martin, a very dramatic day today.
It was, Wolf. I mean, the past 2 days have been focused on what was called the prosecution's star witness. Today, though, as you point out, these were key witnesses, crucial to the case, especially for the defense, because it seems that, at least in two accounts, the stories they tell bolster what George Zimmerman has maintained, that it was Trayvon Martin that was on top of him, beating him, and thereby he had to shoot in self-defense to save his own life. Jonathan Good was one of the first to testify. What was interesting is that he really is, I guess you could say, an eyewitness. He claims that he was on his patio 10 to 15 feet away, saw the two struggling, and could identify them by the color of the clothing, and then later he, of course, knew them by name. And he described exactly what he saw, and, well, listen.
What you saw was the person on top in an MMA-style straddle position, correct?
Correct.
That was further described, was it not, as being ground and pound?
Correct.
Right? What is ground and pound, as you
That's
define
usually
it?
what takes place in that type of position.
Sure. So MMA, to the extent that you're aware of it, and MMA is mixed martial arts?
Correct.
You knew it enough to start giving terminology like ground and pound to what you saw, right?
It was the first thing that came to my mind, yes.
That the person on top was ground and pounding the person on the bottom?
That's what it looked like, yes.
So, explain what ground and pound is in your mind.
The person on top being able to punch the person on the bottom, but the person on the bottom also has a chance to get out or punch the person on top. It's back and forth.
Sure, and which is the dominant position?
It would be the top position.
Pretty dramatic stuff, Martin. When we hear about that, the state also tried to get at Zimmerman's state of mind with a different witness. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was Jonathan Manalo, and as you point out, he was the next one to take the witness stand. What's interesting about him is that he is the very first person that George Zimmerman interacts with in the seconds immediately after he has shot Trayvon Martin. And what the state was trying to get to in their testimony with him was, what was Zimmerman's state of mind? And that is crucial for second-degree murder because it plays into that. So they really want to sense what George was saying. What was he thinking? Here's what the witness said.
Okay. I had a connection with her right away, and I said, your husband has been involved in a shooting. He's being handcuffed, and he's going to be held for questioning at the Sanford Police Department. And around that time, he kind of cut me off, and he says, just tell her I shot someone.
Okay. When you say he cut you off, the defendant cut you off?
Yes.
And he said what now?
Just tell her I shot someone. Yes.
What'd he say?
Okay, well, he just shot someone.
Were you saying to his wife on the phone?
Yes, I was saying it to his wife.
In terms of when he said that, how would you describe the defendant's demeanor?
Like I was taking too long to say what I had to say.
Well, what was going on there was that the witness, George Zimmerman, was handcuffed at that point, and he asked, could the witness, the man that night, call Zimmerman's wife, which he did for him. But what the state, I think, is trying to point out is, well, isn't that kind of an odd thing where he just blurts out and says, just tell her I shot someone? But then, you know, the defense came back and said, well, actually, he said a number of other things besides just that. But it was at least an attempt to point out state of mind.
Yeah, what a dramatic way, though, to wind up week one of this second-degree murder trial. Martin, don't go too far away. I want to dig a little bit deeper right now with our CNN legal analyst. is a more federal prosecutor. Joey Jackson is a criminal defense attorney. I'm going to play Joey another little clip. This is John Good. This is the neighbor who says he was an eyewitness to what was going on. Listen to this.
Any type of punctate injury right around here?
I can see that.
As far up as here? You see that?
It appears to be.
And as down low as here?
Correct.
As what you testified before, sort of the same?
It appears to be, yes.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm not identifying the exhibits. That's number 66 that the witness is testifying concerning. And do you see this area right there of swelling? From this ridge here down to this ridge. Can you see that?
It's hard to tell in this picture from a side view.
Okay. Can you see this injury here? And can you identify what that is?
Objection as to leading from this aspect, in terms of testifying, Mr. O'Mara testifying there's injuries there without this witness saying that there is.
Okay. Sustained as to the word injury.
All right, that clearly wasn't John Good. The neighbor who was watching says he was watching what was going on. There's testimony from Lindsay Folgate, a physician assistant who treated George Zimmerman the day after the shooting. But the same question, Joey, to you. If John Good says he was there, he was only a few feet away, and he believed he saw Zimmerman on the bottom, Trayvon Martin on the top, beating him up, if you will, what does that say to you?
It's huge, Wolf, and let me just go into this. Now, this was Folgate, the clip that you showed, the physician's assistant. The defense was cross-examining her on the issue of injury. And talking about the issue of injury, what they were doing, the defense that is, was highlighting the injury, but more importantly, corroborating what George Zimmerman said happened that night in the actual medical report. Now, if you look at that, Wolf, and you juxtapose that next to John Good's testimony, and he's talking about MMA style and the person's on the bottom, and you also look at the scream. Someone was yelling, help, help, help. Well, the jury, Wolf, can infer that the person yelling help was the person in the bottom. And what that does is it corroborates the defense of self-defense.
It sounds, Sonny, like that was pretty important testimony that helps George Zimmerman.
Well, there's no question that it was important testimony. It was the most important testimony for the defense. And many people are saying, well, why would the prosecution put this type of witness on the witness stand? Well, the prosecution doesn't want to be seen by this jury as trying to hide the ball, trying to hide evidence. You can't run away from the facts when you're a prosecutor. You put it all out there and you try to shape the narrative so that it fits your theory of the case. But no question about it, this was a good witness for the defense. But let me point out that this witness did say that while he saw Trayvon Martin on top of, or who he believed was Trayvon Martin on top of George Zimmerman near the concrete, he then left and went inside, and seconds passed between the time that he saw that and then called 911. And then when Trayvon Martin is shot, he's shot and lands in the grass, far away from the concrete. So we don't know what happened between when this witness left and when Trayvon Martin was shot. That's one point. The other point that I think, and we'll see that coming from the prosecution, I'm sure. The other point that I think, Wolf, is really important is what were the extent of his injuries? And that's where you're hearing all of this. You're hearing about the extent of the injuries, and the prosecution is going to say, you know, they're not really that serious. And the last thing that I think is really important to mention also is that this John Good is the only witness. All the neighbors witness stand, it says it was George Zimmerman on the bottom. Every other witness says no, it was Trayvon Martin on the bottom. And so I think when you look at this case, this is a complicated case. It's like putting together little pieces of a puzzle. Ultimately, the jury may still find that when the puzzle is complete, you know, they may not find John Good's version of events credible. But again, this was still good, a very good day for the defense.
A good day. All right, guys, hold on for a moment. I want both of you to stand by because there's a lot more to discuss. Other elements that came out at the end of week one. We're going to continue our special coverage of the George Zimmerman second-degree murder trial ongoing in Sanford, Florida. We're also following other important news this hour, including some record-breaking